Hey guys, welcome back to the Choke Points, and today we are going to talk about one another interesting topic. Okay, now if you want to understand what's happening in the current world order, where it is headed, and the real mechanics behind BRICS, SEO, and Global South, then please do hit like and subscribe. Okay, and for today's video, we are going to talk about what BRICS and de-dollarization. But it's not going to be your usual uh clickbait type video, normally that you see on de-dollarization. That is, dollar is finished, dollar is done, China ends the dollar. This type of uh videos you will see a lot. But the reality is there's no or very little substance behind it. Okay, so what exactly is going on in this video today? This video is all about how system actually changes step by step. Now, for example, let me ask you this question, okay? That what's the biggest sign of de-dollarization? What will you say? Is it the headline, or is it some BRICS summit photo, or is it some sort of BRICS currency picture and published all over the internet? Is that de-dollarization? But actually, the real answer is that no. Okay, no. You just cannot tell by those things that de-dollarization is taking place. Now, I'm gonna go with the numbers too. Like for example, 2024. In 2024, dollar share in the forex reserve was 57%, 57.8, 57.9%, around that. Okay, and today, what's the dollar share in the global forex reserves? It is 56.9%. That is lump sum give take 57%. There's not much difference. Okay. So, what exactly is the sign? See, sign, the way I understand, is that is the day you can trade, borrow, insure, hedge, settle, and store value at scale. Okay, without needing the dollar anywhere in the chain. Okay, that's when you can say that yes, it's de-dollarized. Okay, but 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 that's the problem, right? The BRICS has made progress in parts, right? In parts of certain of that chain, the supply chain, or the dollar chain, the recycling chain, you can call it. But it's not the whole stack. It's not everything. Not everything is done yet. Why is that? Why? See, it's not done because dollar is not just a currency. Dollar was a currency, I would say, 100 years ago, 70, 80 years ago, World War One, World War Two era. Dollar was a currency, yeah, fair enough. Okay. But now what is dollar? Dollar right now is an infrastructure. Okay. Is the default language of pricing. It's the deepest pool of liquidity, the hedge that everyone can count on. It's the safe haven, right? And it's the payment and settlement plumbing that makes cross border trade function at scale without any problem. Now, if you go and talk to two traders, okay, one trading in the national currency and one trading in dollar, and ask them which one is the smoothest, they will tell you that chances are that 9 out of 10 they will tell you that it is the dollar. Working with the Swift is the smoothest thing for them. Okay. Now, it's not all lost and all that. Okay. I am just talking about the de-dollarization as to why the BRICS de-dollarization plan is still incomplete. Okay. So that's the whole thing. That's the whole theme and the whole idea for today's video. Why? Because see, BRICS wants options, and in certain trade corridors, certain supply chains, it is building them too. Like for example, between Russia and China, Russia and India, and Russia, Iran, and India, maybe. But anything else? Can anyone tell me with confidence that it's being built anywhere else, right? But replacing the dollar, why? Because the replacing the dollar isn't about just announcing the alternative, saying that hey, we have SFPS, we have CISP, we have UPI, we have this, we have that, right? It's about making those alternatives work at scale. If not with 194 countries, but at least within the BRICS bloc, across the 10 countries, right? 10 countries with different interests, different controls, different tolerance for risks, right? That is the risk appetite. So, so that's what we are going to do today, okay? That's what we are going to do. We are going to find out, discuss the exact reasons the BRICS de-dollarization plan is still incomplete. What is moving, what's stuck, and what still needs to be built. Okay. But one more thing, yes. That, yes, it may sound like that, yeah, I'm saying that de-dollarization plan has failed or something. No, incomplete does not mean failed. Okay, it simply means the project is still in progress. So what are we going to do? We are going to talk about that today. So please do like and subscribe, and let's get started on this. Okay, what is the reason number one? Okay, reason number one is the no BRICS common currency. See, BRICS de-dollarization plan is incomplete for one of the many reasons. One of the reasons is the BRICS common currency is just not there. And it's not there for many other reasons. Why? Because, for example, China joined the Western boat in early 70s and 80s. And at first, China just dollarized its economy completely and built everything, infrastructure, whatever it wanted to build. But there were countries that were not so lucky. Okay. They maintained their sovereignty, they maintained their dignity far more than what Chinese did. Okay. And uh, while Chinese were being friends with the West, these countries were actually fighting against the West. And finally, uh, China, Russia, there are a few other countries, right, who actually went with the West, and then they started to set up their shop. And even though today they are talking about de-dollarization, let's have a BRICS common currency too. After uh, their exports are $3 trillion or something, right? So, so that's one of the reasons. So that's why other BRICS countries are like, okay, you have your things all under control. That's not the case with us. So we are not going to go with BRICS currency, BRICS common currency. Okay. So the BRICS common currency as such, having a BRICS common currency, one of the primary reasons is the export. There is a wide gap between the exports of BRICS currencies. Export, manufacturing, take it, you name anything. And that disparity alone is the reason that BRICS countries don't agree to BRICS common currency. Why? Because whatever you will do, whatever criteria you will select, or BRICS countries will have to opt for to establish a BRICS common currency, uh, that criteria will always, the balance will always tilt in favor of the countries with the strongest economies. For example, China. Now, let's say if India's economy was $10 trillion and China's economy was 18 or $19 trillion, maybe so little bit, but it's still, out of 10 countries, there are only 2 countries. So, this is why the having um, a BRICS currency was sort of BRICS common currency has been a big problem. And there is another thing too. There is a political reality involved in it as well. The political reality is that uh, even today, yes, after America started to uh, apply the tariffs, impose tariffs on countries, America took out its stake. So BRICS may be showing all this unity and all that good stuff on paper, but there is a stark difference as far as politics is concerned, as far as geopolitics is concerned. There are lots and lots of disputes too. So why would countries come up with a system that is going to help their enemy in a way, if you ask me? Hmm? Yes, these countries, they try to suppress the narrative that they have, narrative of, instead of using enemy or calling each other enemy, they say we are rivals or we are competitors and this and that. But at the end of the day, their insecurities actually say it all, that trust deficit is pretty big, right? Whether it is between China or India, whether it is China and Russia. So mark my words. I mean, China has attacked India in 1962. China had attacked Russia in 1959. Why you think Russians actually went towards Indians? They went towards Indians and they got close to India because they didn't want India, Pakistan, China, all these countries going pro-West. That was the whole goal, whole entire Russia's entire how do I put it? Russia's entire concern that if all these countries join the Western Bloc, then Soviets will be pretty much in trouble, right? So, this is why. So the reason number one is the BRICS common currency. Okay, so BRICS common currency, basically, like I said, that there are political reasons. There is a lack of trust. Main thing is the economic disparity, because of which there is no common currency. Okay. Now the second reason is the uh, local currency challenges. Now you might have heard this a lot from BRICS countries that, oh, uh, we are not anti-West, we are just non-Western, we are not doing any de-dollarization, we are just trading in national currencies because we don't have any other option but to do, because our largest partners don't have the dollar, so we have to trade with them in the national currencies because they are our largest partners. At least that's what India has said, that's what China has said, that's what Indonesia has said, that's what Nigeria has said. They all have said the same stuff, same story. Okay. Now, let's look at this uh, local currency challenge that I was talking about. The reason number two. See, the local currency challenge. So the de-dollarization narrative, they said on paper that why they are not trading in dollar, why they are trading in national currency or local currency. But the reality of local currency trade is not um, all hunky dory. It's not all groovy. There are levels of problems. For example, if you go look into it, then you find that local currency settlements, they take forever actually, when the traders normally want their money immediately. But there was a time when at least with India and Russia, I mean, the traders were getting their money back, settlement money, that is, what, in after a month or so. Sometimes their money would just sit there for 90 days and they wouldn't get it. So getting money late, meaning that if a trader is counting on that settlement money to start its next adventure, right, then and if they don't get their money on time, then yeah, they will have to postpone the whole entire thing. And that could be the fine line. I mean, that could be the defining moment for their business too, right? So that's where the local currency problem started. Now, Russia and India, for example, Russia and India, they trade. India started to buy Russian oil. Now, for Russia and India, their trade, they have always said that we have $20 billion trade. Then now it is $65 billion. But out of that $65 billion, India only exports $5 billion and India imports $60 billion worth of crude oil mainly, and few other things besides few other things. Okay. And that creates the core problem of trading in the local currency, that is the trade imbalance. Now, if there is so much trade imbalance, then uh, India is buying Russian stuff in what? In the Indian rupee. So what Russia is going to do about it? Because after a while, Russians cannot do anything. The Indians said that, hey, it's not our fault. We are just trying to help you. So if you cannot come up with a way so that we can export you the stuff that we want, we are ready to do that, but you are not opening the doors for us. So if you don't open the door for us, then yeah, the currency is going to sit there and it will accumulate. So finally, it led to this whole entire thing basically led to what? It led to the problem of currency accumulation. India was importing $5 billion worth of all that stuff, but India also had loads and loads of ruble collecting too, right? Then, so all that led to what? Led to another problem, that was the convertibility problem, as to how do Russia and Indian rupee and Russian ruble compare? How do we establish the exchange rate between them? That was another problem or challenge when they decided to trade with the local currency. And now I'm telling you this thing I'm telling you just with respect to what? Between the two countries. That's about it. Now imagine if you want to do this whole thing at scale, how much of a problem it will be. Yes, Russia and India solved their problem, the convertibility problem. They worked on it, and now it's all hunky dory, and now they can trade and all that good stuff. Yes, fair enough. But like I said earlier during the introduction video, right? Introduction, I said that you have to be able to do this whole thing at scale. Not with one country, not with two countries, not with three countries. Especially if you're planning to expand BRICS bloc and you are talking about de-dollarization, trading in local currencies and all that, then how are you going to scale this thing with all other BRICS countries? Yes, India has its financial rock solid fintech infrastructure. Yes, China has it. Let's say to an extent, let's say Indonesia has it, UAE has it. But does Nigeria has that? No, Nigeria doesn't have that. Does Ethiopia has that? No, Ethiopia doesn't have it either. Does Egypt have it? No. Does Uganda have it? No. So how are you going to scale this whole thing within the BRICS members? That is a problem. These are the kind of things that gets ignored from the get-go, from the starting point. When the articles are written on these things, when videos are made on these things, then nobody tells you exactly the hidden problems. And hidden problems, how do I put it? Hidden problems in conjunction with the actual thing that we are trying to talk about, that is de-dollarization. Nobody says that, hey, why de-dollarization is facing the problem, this. Nobody talks about that, right? Now, so then another problem with the trading with local currencies is the hedging. Hedging is another wall that companies need cheap deep foreign exchange hedging markets to manage the risk. And those are still what? US dollar centered. Hedging as in backing, right? Backup plan, right? So why I mean backup plan as in that if the trade fails, something goes south, then how you're going to manage all that? Let's say how do we guarantee the trader is going to get its money? Hedging as in if you're trading in national currency, let's say
I will just give you a very good example, simple yet good example. That let's say uh, India and Nigeria are trading in national currency. Fair enough. Nigeria's naira has a history of collapse from time to time, and because of which, actually Nigeria moved to the digital currency and they started to mint that there is mint naira. Okay, but then the political system is still not very robust over there. There's not much of a too much political stability. I mean, look at it. Look at U.S. bombed ISIS targets in Nigeria. Can US do that in India or China or Russia, regardless of whether ISIS is there or not? My point here is this. My point is that political instability can be created by anything. So let's say India is trading with Nigeria in national currencies, and tomorrow Nigeria's government is gone. Then how do the Indian traders make sure that they're going to get their money back? Right? So that's when the hedging comes into play. The foreign exchange hedging markets. You need that. And how do you handle that thing? That has to be in dollar. Yes, countries can discuss the local currency trade, but at the end of the day, dollar is still the widely used currency. So yeah, dollar will be the dollar is the backbone of the foreign exchange hedging market, right? So these are some of the problems with the local currency trade. Even though I think that local currency trade is actually way more damaging to the dollar than anything else. Now, after local currency trade, what is the next reason? Next reason is the lack of full stack infrastructure. Now, what kind of infrastructure are we talking about here? So let's see. Let's go with a very simple example again. Let's talk about the maritime shipping. Hmm? Maritime trade. I made a video on it too. I don't know. I think views were very low, so I believe that people don't like it. People like those hot topics. They don't want to understand the mechanism behind it, behind the things, but instead they like the hot topics, especially topics with very hot titles. Okay. Regardless of what it says, they don't care. Okay. Anyways, so the full stack infrastructure, there are countries, first of all, you have to have a uh, currency market exchange. Okay, that's number one thing. Number two thing is you have to have forex hedging markets infrastructure. Then you have to have payments, clearing, settlement for finality, legal enforcement. These infrastructures are needed. Now I was going to talk about maritime infrastructure. Now you know that even today 90% of the maritime insurance is provided by the Western Bloc, not by the Global South. And there are only very few countries like India, China, Russia, UAE that actually provide the insurance to their ships and all that. But that's not very huge. That's the stuff that falls under the 10%. Okay? So when you don't have all that, when you don't have a full stack infrastructure, then how do you plan to actually replace the dollar? Let's say tomorrow some country in Africa agrees that yeah, let's trade in national currencies, and they get sanctioned. What happens then? If they get sanctioned, then they won't be able to ship their stuff to you using their own shipping containers or their own cargo ships, simply because they just don't have it. There are very few countries that have rock solid actually capital markets. Even look at Africa. Africa's largest capital market is in Johannesburg, South Africa, which is what, 1.3 trillion dollars give take. That's it. So, uh, so that's why. So the BRICS can also needs what, a full stack infrastructure for the trade corridors, infrastructure for complete payment and settlement system at scale, not between one or two countries or not with 400-500 entities give take. No, at scale. It has to be at scale. Okay. Then insurance, shipping finance, commodity contracting, all this should be there. And all this right now is handled by what? The US dollar benchmarking, US dollar liquidity. In fact, there are many cases where even if you can pay in local currencies, then the surrounding services basically they just price their risk in what? They price their risk in dollars. Whenever it comes to the risk, dollar immediately shows up. And it is frustrating to an extent, but uh, let's just say the lack of but still, I mean, because of lack of full stack infrastructure, I mean, it becomes a problem now. uh, because certain the risk pricing is not actually controlled by the West. Nobody controls it. Certain risks are not controlled, so they are locally, they are handled locally, but they still want dollar, right? Unless government really enforces them to use the local currency denomination. But other than that, I mean, they still go for the dollar. And if you start to look into the layers of sanctions, then uh US could have gone actually even harder on sanctions on Russia too, you know. So so these are, that's another reason, that's the reason number 3, that full stack infrastructure is needed. Yes, BRICS is working on it. Yes, there are corridors are being built and all. Then maritime shipping also, like India is building its 100 ships now. China is also improving that thing really fast. Then Russians are working on it. So at least if 3 other great powers will have their own shipping and all that infrastructure set, then they can actually provide that help to other countries as well, other global south countries. So yeah, so they are working on the full stack infrastructure, but it will take time. All right. So now let's talk about the fourth reason. Then what is the fourth reason? Fourth reason is that there is no single BRICS plan. Now, what does that really mean, right? First of all, calling it the plan is misleading. BRICS de-dollarization is not one project with one roadmap. Simple thing. Because there is no plan that, yeah, you take step 1, do this, step 2, do that, step 3, do this, right? Like that. There is no such plan as such. Every country, every BRICS country is making an effort from their side. And there can't be any other plan, because BRICS countries themselves actually trade with the global West altogether, and they trade with them in dollars. Okay, so when they're trading with them in, and that too in a very large volume, it's not even little bit, it's large volume. Like for example, China trades with Europe almost $700 billion with the European Union. Where do you think that money goes? Where do you think all that dollar goes? You think that China is trading them with them in national currencies? No. India is working on building all that corridor, all the fancy talk, and all that free trade agreement that is being talked and worked on. Why do you think that is? Do you think that they're going to trade in local currencies? No, they're going to trade in the dollar. That's how it's gonna be. So when we talk about de-dollarization plan, like that, lots of times you will see this in many articles, that BRICS has devised new de-dollarization plan. Like all these BRICS members, they're sitting there and they're conspiring that, okay, yes, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. This is gonna create de-dollarization. and dollar will be gone overnight if we execute this plan. But the reality is that there is no plan, because you can't have any plan. Why? Because of all the things that I have talked about, at least first 3 points that I've talked about, right? So, uh, I mean, heck, I mean, forget the plan. I mean, there is no coordination. Even you saw what happened, right? I mean, when the tariff was imposed on Brazil and India and all that, what happened? All they did was a few 8 9 BRICS members, they got on online and got on emergency call. They made their statements, and that's about it. Next day, what happens? China turns out that China is like, okay, we are ending trade war with America. Brazil is still bothered that, hey, what are they going to do about their coffee? So that's why President Lula is visiting India this year for the AI summit. But what did that tell you? That told you that shows you that there is no plan, there is no regulation, there is no framework to handle these type of situations. So so coordination, when coordination is not there, then let alone where the plan is gonna be. Plan just doesn't exist, right? Now let's talk about the final reason. Okay, final reason being the external pressure. Okay, now what do I mean by external pressure? What I mean by external pressure is that all these countries that are in the BRICS, okay, simply because they are trading with the Western countries, so they have the pressure of what? They have pressure of their domestic politics, they have pressure of their geopolitics, they have pressure of trade imbalance within the BRICS bloc, they have pressure of uh, managing the threat within the BRICS countries. So all these pressures are already there. So um, now let me give you another scenario. For example, let's say when let's say India and say Indonesia say that, yeah, we are going to trade in national currency, we are not going to use dollar. But you have to understand that when two countries decide that, then behind the doors there are other powers that want to make sure that this doesn't happen, right? Though what they do, they are going to do some sort of pushback. There will be, in fact, not just little bit, there will be a whole entire geopolitical pushback. I'll give you a simple example of that again. Like in 2024, 2000, so India and Canada have been trying to sign the trade agreement, free trade agreement. But guess what? They have not signed it yet. India UK free trade agreement. It was just being pushed back, pushed back. Finally, they signed it. India European Union free trade agreement. Guess what? They were supposed to be. It was supposed to be signed by the December last year. That's what they were saying since July last year, but it wasn't signed. Why do you think all that is? It's because of all Russian oil and all the mumbo jumbo fancy stuff. So they've been negotiating all these things behind the closed doors. Okay, they have been negotiating all this behind closed doors, and it has less to do with the Russian oil. It has more to do with creating a rift between India and Russia. That's the whole idea. Why? Because Russia and China now are close, but what the world does, rest of the world doesn't want is the Russia, India, and China triangle. That's what they don't want. So there is geopolitical pushback. Then we also know what happened when President Trump made the threat of what? Threat of tariffs, sanctions, market access restrictions. Then all these things will risk. What does it do? It increases the risk premiums, right? And why was that all that threat was being made? It was being made because of the BRICS. He used the name BRICS to do all that, right? So yeah, there are external pressures too. And last thing, and most of these BRICS countries do not have that kind of robust economy. Like, look at Brazil. You think that Brazil's economy is very robust? No, Brazil's economy is not robust. Look at President Lula. He's running around all over with chicken, like a chicken with head cut off, not knowing what to do at this point. Who's going to buy his coffee? Who's going to buy Brazilian coffee now? Because in America, Brazilian coffee has been replaced by the Colombian coffee. So yeah, China tried to help. India's working on helping too, but there is no framework within the BRICS bloc to handle all these things. So even though, see, more the dollar is weaponized, the more countries want options. But then again, more dangerous it becomes to move too fast too, right? So so that's another reason, that the external pressure reason, right? Now, what else could be the reason? What else is the reason that that de-dollarization hasn't worked? See, another reason that de-dollarization hasn't worked is simple economics. Simple economics says that when you remove a safe haven currency from the global markets, all of a sudden, if you do that or just reject it, let's say that happens really fast at a rapid pace, uh, then it actually impacts the global economy in a negative way. It has to be a gradual process, from 58% to 57%, and from 57% to 56% and 55%, like that. But if you directly want it to jump down, I mean, come down from 57% to all the way with 30% or something like that, that's going to crash the whole entire global economy. And I don't really think that world is ready uh, for that yet. World without dollar is just not going to happen, at least, okay? Not at least for next 5 to 10 years or 15 years, I would say. I can confidently say that thing, that at least till 2035, I would say. I will give it till 2035. Okay, a world without dollar. In fact, I think by 2035, dollar, by the time 57%, 56.9, right? So I would say by 2035, dollar will come down to 50%. It will come down to 50%. And that's when you will start to see the serious changes. But other than that, I think that a world without dollar will probably collapse if that happens at a rapid pace. All right. So this is it for this video, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.